What up, y'all? Corey here. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about referral marketing, the 3 things you can do to generate more referrals into your business, and why I believe it's actually the most important and also technically probably the easiest form of lead generation for your business. Think about referrals like this. Have you ever wished that you had a steady stream of high-quality leads flowing into your business? The kind that practically sells themselves? Well, today we're diving deep into the topic of referrals, and I'll share some personal stories to show you how powerful they can be. And we'll also explore 3 main strategies that I believe are essential to having a good referral program that will be asking, incentivizing, and collaborating. These are simple but incredibly effective techniques that can transform your business. Let's go. Number 1 is ask and you shall receive. This one probably seems insanely obvious, but I'll be honest, it is one of the most overlooked things that I see when people are trying to get referrals is that they just straight up never ask. You would think that people would just know that you're looking for leads and looking for referrals, but honestly, if someone's not a business owner, then they're probably definitely not thinking about it. And even if they are a business owner, then they're probably busy and they're getting bombarded with all sorts of messages and ads, and so it never really crosses their mind that you're looking for a very specific lead. And so this one, again, is such a very simple and low-hanging fruit, but I can promise you that people do not know that you are looking for leads or referrals if you do not ask them. I was actually just recently in Alaska, and while our Uber driver or Lyft driver, I guess it doesn't really matter, was driving us to the Airbnb, I straight up asked him. I was like, hey, do you know of any local restaurants that are really good? And to be honest, he seemed like he didn't really get that question very often because he really perked up and gave us some pretty amazing recommendations. We did honestly end up going to one of those, and it was very, very good food, and I really appreciate the recommendation. But my point is that he would have never thought to give us a recommendation for delicious restaurants had I not asked him. Yet this is exactly the same thing with referrals. If you are not asking your network or on some level putting it out there that you are interested in getting referrals and leads for whatever your product or service is, people just straight up don't know or don't even think about it. And so although this one might seem obvious, it is honestly very commonly overlooked, is to just make sure that you're asking your network, not in an annoying way, not in a constant like every week or every other day asking people, but just doing it in those unique moments of maybe you provided value to somebody and you were like, oh, by the way, I'm glad that you really got a lot of value out of this thing that I provided for you. Do you happen to know of anybody else that could also get value from this thing that I provided you? Right? You're not forcing it. You're not making it awkward. You're not like pushing them to give you all their referrals and all their leads. Generally speaking, if somebody knows somebody else that could get value from the thing that you provide, they're actually in a win-win scenario where their friend is going to get some sort of value out of it. They're kind of the middleman or woman, and then you also get value out of it. So it's kind of a win-win-win type situation. But that's number 1, and like I said, the most commonly overlooked one is just you have to ask. And there's multiple ways you could do this. You could do this in your newsletter, you could do this on a social media post, you could do this in the DMs or after you provide service for somebody. There's many, many ways, obviously, but I think the point is just make sure you're asking people. Otherwise, they have no idea. All right, number 2 is the power and incentives. Sometimes a little nudge can go a long ways. Like I said, we were recently in Alaska and we went to a local coffee shop. Cool thing about Alaska is they have all these little coffee shop huts everywhere. Like there's not really like storefronts. I mean, there are, but there's very few, but most of them are these little huts that they just plop in parking lots, and they're these little coffee huts. So super cool. But we went to one and I pulled out my American Express card and they're like, we don't take American Express. I was like, damn. So then my girlfriend pulled out her card and it was Discover, and they tried to run it and it didn't work. And eventually the barista that was working at the coffee shop was like, don't worry about it. It's on us. For some reason, my credit card machine isn't working and not running your credit card. And we're like, oh, that's super cool. So then afterwards, I decided to take a photo of me and my girlfriend in front of the coffee shop and the sign. And I posted a 5-star review on Google. And I was like saying, hey, this coffee was really good. And it was honestly very good. But I'll be honest, it was also a bit incentivized. She gave us free coffee. So now I felt obliged to return the favor. That was very kind of her. And I wanted to do something back. And it was one of the most simple things that I could come up in the moment was just to give them a 5-star review. And really what this is hitting on is just that idea of reciprocity. I've talked about this many times before, but whenever you do a kind gesture to somebody else, they often want to return that favor, and not only just return that favor, but do something bigger or better or greater than the initial incentive. And so referrals work the exact same way, is that if you can offer some sort of incentive to somebody, whether it's a gift card or a charitable donation or some sort of discount on your product or services, or maybe it's some sort of swag or gear, you got some cool shirts or some cool hats you want to give away, Oftentimes, you can give away those things in return for referrals, or vice versa, is that if you get a referral from somebody, you can offer them a gift. But my point is with this second one is having some way to incentivize people to give you referrals. And it honestly doesn't have to be anything crazy. Like I said, very small gestures can go a very long way, and it only sometimes takes just a little bit of nudge to get somebody to give you that referral or that recommendation to somebody else that could also get value from your products or services. As a final note on this incentivizing thing, one of my favorite things to do with clients is to actually offer them discounts when they give me referrals that turn into clients or customers. Is that I'll take 10% or 15% off of their entire project for every referral or recommendation that I get from them. And it's really, again, creating that win-win-win type situation is where they get a discount on the product, I get a new client, and they get somebody else that also gets value from the products or services that I provide. All right, the third one I want to talk about is the key in collaboration. And I know we've all heard this topic before. We all know that it's really important to collaborate with other business owners. But the question is how you do it. And actually, ironically, last night I was just out to dinner with some friends, and we were talking about the challenges in the lack of collaboration between chiropractors and doctors, right? Is chiropractors oftentimes, not always, take a little bit more of a holistic approach versus doctors take a little bit of a more of a medical approach. And I don't think either one is right or wrong. They often both serve their purpose in their unique circumstances. But what happens with so many professionals that I see, especially in the healthcare space, is they take the role of a hammer and they think everything is a nail. When in reality, sometimes there's a screw or sometimes there's a staple and there's a different tool for the job, when in reality, they should just be collaborating and partnering with other people that can help solve this customer or this client or this patient's problem as opposed to trying to do it all themselves and keep it all in-house and having this really greedy approach to it. And it's honestly very small-minded thinking, but it is something that happens a lot, especially for small business owners, is that they forget to look at the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is that when you help somebody, regardless if it's your services or somebody else providing that service for them, is that as long as they're getting better, it's creating an association and a reputation for you as somebody that actually helps them solve their problem. And in the long run, that actually leads to more referrals. And so it's so important, regardless of what position you are in the health space, is to know who your collaboration partners are. Obviously, you want them to be good, and to know which lane you should stay in and which lane you should get out of, depending upon the problem that you're ultimately trying to solve. As much as I wish that I could tell you that you're amazing, that everything, it's just not true. And I am equally guilty of this. So I'm also talking to myself in this podcast episode. But knowing where your strengths lie and your weaknesses lie are very important. In school, they basically try to raise up our weaknesses and allow us to go from C's to B's to A's in the categories that we actually suck at. But in the real world, it's actually the opposite approach, is that you should just be leveraging the thing that you're always getting A's at, the things that you're A+ at and you're the best in the world at, or hopefully the best in the community at. And then those things that you're B's, C's, D's, and F's, you should definitely be handing off to somebody else to allow them to do what they're hopefully an A+ at. All right, just as a final recap of those three things, is number one is you have to ask in order to receive. It seems so obvious, but often so overlooked. Number two is you want to incentivize people to refer to you. And number three is you want to find collaboration and referral partners in which you can refer back and forth. If we haven't met before, my name is Corey Hiben, and I have a marketing agency for health brands. There are three ways that I can help you. I can help you with your website, I can help you with your branding, or I can help you with your marketing. If that happens to be you, I'd love to chat more. But in either case, I hope you guys have a great day. Peace. Hey friend, thanks for listening to the show, and if you have any feedback for me about the show or any other guests that you'd want to see in the show, definitely shoot me a message. I love engaging with my audience and figuring out how I can provide the best value possible to the people listening to this show. Before you go, I only have one ask of you, and that would be to check out my 3 Tips Tuesday newsletter. It's 3 marketing tips every Tuesday specifically for the health and fitness entrepreneur to help them attract new leads. If you press the link in the description, it'll take you directly to the archive of all my previous newsletters, and you can decide for yourself if it's something for you. If you end up finding it helpful, you can just sign up for the newsletter and you'll get it in your inbox every Tuesday. Thanks again, and keep hustling, my friends.